Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all today to today's webinar on living with pets in apartment complexes, rights, rules, and responsibilities. We have the honor of introducing our speaker, Ms. Sadhana Hegde. Sadhana is a former corporate leader turned social entrepreneur who has rescued and rehabilitated street dogs for over 16 years. Her mission is to help society coexist with animals through awareness and compassion. I would also like to introduce our esteemed facilitator for today's session, Mr. Manoj Agarwal, our Managing Director. Under his leadership, Agarwal Estates has grown to become a trusted name in the real estate industry, known for its commitment to excellence and customer satisfaction. Today's webinar will last approximately 45 minutes, and you can ask questions at any time during the presentation by either unmuting yourself or typing your questions in the chat box. So without further ado, let's get started. Mrs. Sadhana, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Pooja, and hello, Manoj, and hello, everybody. Firstly, thank you for giving this beautiful opportunity to talk about pets in in urban reality, actually. Considering that in the last 60 to 70 years, the way we handle animals and the way we interact with animals, be it in urban reality or else in rural space, has transformed into something much beyond the basic need of being in interaction with animals. And now when we are talking about Bangalore is even much beyond the individual villas that we used to stay in earlier, or be it just one or two floor buildings and couple of people that we were interacting as our neighbors. And now we all have moved on to this huge apartments and gated communities, be it Brigade, be it Agarwals, or all of these. The space is transforming into something where the interaction between the animals, interaction between the people has transformed a lot. So I'm totally in love with the point that we will get to talk about this today and explore what are the questions that pet parents have. I'm a pet parent for almost 20 years now, and I have 6 dogs at home as of today. And yes, most of them are rescues, but my mom introduced me to a pet when we thought we wanted to have a dog at home. I and my brother were discussing when we were in college that there are so many street dogs and they were all delivering puppies, and we would see so many on the road. And that is one of the times where we asked our mom if it is okay for us to have a pet. And initially, she was completely reluctant, thinking, okay, this is a lot of responsibility, and I don't know if it has to be that, okay, it's my third kid, and I don't know if my kids are going to take the responsibility or not. But eventually, she changed her mind and brought us a pup. And that's how our journey as a pet parent started. One pet actually makes you look at the world and makes you look at animals in a total different manner compared to how you are living even before having pets. So some people warm up to the idea and there is some emotional connection and they end up having pets, and that becomes a lifelong activity, meaning even if they lose their pet, they continue to adopt some pet or the other and continue to interact with animals. And then we have another set of citizens who are not really warming up to the idea of having pets. But what we have seen is in the last 2 decades, the number of people who are warming up to the idea of having pets at their homes, and starting from having just one dog or one cat to having rescues as well, and having dogs and cats and birds, everything, the whole landscape has changed. And you can see more and more citizens having the idea of even having pets as their children, and remaining child free as well. That is also happening, but it comes with the idea of a little bit of conflict, considering that the thought process of having an animal among humans animal or a bird among humans is completely different from a lot of people who believe that animals and birds must stay outside your residential area, they must remain in environment, and they must remain free. It's not something that you're going to have a dog in your apartment or a cat in your apartment and that lives in your balcony. These kind of uh, belief system has already stayed in India. In rural areas, it is not a new thing for you to have a cow, a sheep, and a dog with you, and it just goes as a normal thing. But in apartments, we are now moving on to places where we live with other humans in a very close proximity. We are sharing balconies, we are sharing our common areas, including the parks. And at the same time, the properties are so huge that many a times you can't even have your pets relieve going outside to the road or a separate location. So you're now looking for properties, or you're looking for builders and developers to create pet relief areas or create pet recreation areas wherein you can start taking care of your pets and taking care of your daily requirements for your pets, everything in one single property and inside that big property. And that comes with its own issues. And I would want to actually, spend probably couple of minutes trying to I don't know what is the kind of audience that we have today. Do we have an audience who already have pets, or are we looking at audience who are keen on having pets and want to know how they can manage it in apartments? Over to you, Manoj. Yes.
You are on mute. You're on mute.
No.
Yes. Uh,
So some of us already have a pet. Some of us had already had a pet. Some of them are thinking about having a pet, and some could be why people have a pet, right? So the audience is
yes.
very different basically. So the idea was basically calling you, we can cover the both side of the story.
That's very interesting. So I know there are a lot of in the awareness sessions that we conduct in various residential welfare organizations. A lot of people have this question: ki, why do you have pets at all? What is the necessity? It
Yes.
is a companionship requirement, and sometimes it is also this love towards all species around you. There are a lot of citizens. I mean, in any society, there are two types of citizens. One, who are able to interact and connect with any species around them, not just humans. So they see a bird, they admire how beautiful nature's creation is, and sometimes they like the idea of having, sharing the space with the bird. Now, when it comes to dogs and cats provide a varied kind of companionship and support beyond what humans can provide. The whole idea of unconditional love, that is one thing, and then there is some percentage of people who also go for it as a status symbol, meaning they go to different countries or they have seen different breeds of dogs, the retrievers, the German shepherds, or there's someone who has in their family who has gone out of country. They have seen this beautiful breed and they bring that and they gift it to their family members. And even before you know, you're already sharing space and you have fallen in love with that animal. And that is how you start making space in your own circle, and you start making space in your residential area, sometimes even in your office, that you're making space for your dog or you're making space for your cat and making that comfortable life for them. That is how most of the people have actually picked on pets. I can say there are many stories where they're going somewhere, they went to some area, they rescued some animal out of compassion, and next thing you know is you want to bring that home and shower them with the love and attention that animal needs, especially when we are talking about rescues. So there is a scientific thing that scientific research that says that there are a lot of people who see animals, and then this dopamine and oxytocin release happens in their body, and that generates a kind of happiness that they get out of the unconditional love and interaction that happens with animals and birds. And that is one of the main reasons why they're able to maintain that kind of attachment with animals and birds over a period of time. Then we have the other set who don't really get that dopamine rush, or the oxytocin generation doesn't happen. Not necessarily that it has to happen. Sometimes, the oxytocin stuff is more in seeing the cars that they like, the bikes that they like, or the books that they want to read, the other set. And those are the people who also have some kind of fear because of their past interaction with animals or birds, that
Yes.
they possibly had a dog bite or possibly had a lot of cat scratches or they lived in areas where there are a lot of snakes, lot of cows, but kind of uncontrolled environment where they couldn't handle the interaction with the animal. And that has created an opinion that I'm going to maintain a distance with animals and birds. I'm not against them, but I don't really want to indulge in a close interaction with them. That is the combination that we see as of today. And what I have seen as a transformation also is a lot of citizens have moved on to doing rescues. Meaning, initially, the pets were always like they were bought or they were gifted by someone, and then they had pets in the family. But now, a lot of citizens have moved on to being very active in animal welfare, very active in rescue, and they understand what are the challenges that they have in the places that they stay, in the places that they go. And there are also times where the way they are looking at commitment also has changed. Meaning, there are few citizens who are now having pets at home, and they're also taking care of animals in their office space. So there are a lot of tech parks, corporate companies are also encouraging bringing pets to their office. And if they have that kind of feeling that they want that emotional support in the office, they are considering accommodating pets even in office spaces to help you improve your uh, positive thinking and team building in offices. What I would say is there is only one thing, that is the other part of the group who are not familiar with animal interactions. They have very limited awareness of why people have pets and how we can coexist. And that has become one point of contention and conflict as well. And we also live in an era where we have social media, which is so active, and social media is equally polarizing as well, because you get opinions literally from everyone. There is a doctor who is telling you dogs are good, and then there is a doctor who is telling you dogs are bad. Then it's the same thing even with cats. That the person who has interacted with cats all their life feel completely comfortable with the cat hair or cat poop and everything. And then we also have another set of doctors suggesting that we advise you to stay away from animals. What I feel we need to understand is our environment also has changed a lot. Meaning, we have loads of pollution that is happening with plastic and a lot of non-biodegradable items, because of which uh, I would say the pollution has actually created a lot of confusion on what we need to sort, what is good for us, what is something that we have to leave it to nature. And that is one of the places where I would feel that people must start having, at least in real estates, wherever when the builder comes, I mean, when the customer comes in and the builder and developer is actually talking about what are the amenities that are available in a particular property, it is also important to educate them that you will get to meet a lot of animals and birds in the property. That is one thing, which is already in nature, and then you will also get to interact with a lot of pet parents who are bringing in their dogs, and you might meet these pet parents while you're going for a walk, or you're there in a clubhouse, or sometimes when you're possibly close to a pet relief area, or even when you're using lift. This is something that we have to give a heads up to the other group of people who are not open to interacting with animals. There are many situations where folks have lived in individual villas. They have never interacted with anybody else, and now they're moving into an apartment kind of an setup, or they're going into villa setups wherein you're in a gated community, don't have a compound to separate, but you're living together, these kind of things. So setting expectations that there are going to be interactions is one thing. And then the other thing is conducting events where you get to interact with pet parents without pets there, but telling them the idea of, how do they manage their day-to-day activities, how both groups can interact, and possibly schedule time in such a way that if you want to avoid the interaction, then, there is a good opportunity for you to avoid it. Meaning, what is your common walking time? What is your common exercising time? We also see that a lot of non-pet parents don't have any idea of how animals behave. There is this common belief that all dogs are reactive, all dogs are going to jump, or all dogs are rabid. Even if you have a pet which is vaccinated, it can cause rabies. These kind of confusions are there among a lot of non-pet parents. And I feel even if there are 10 people in an property who have pets, they must start sharing more information with the remaining crowd about their pets, about their behavior. That way, the remaining crowd has a fair idea on what to expect, even if they end up meeting a pet in a property. This is one thing. And the second thing is on the civic responsibility. Civic responsibility, I know that most of the people are uncomfortable when they talk about pet parents, is they feel that there is minimal responsibility that is taken by pet parents in managing their pets. There is an expectation that if we are sharing a space, we must share a cleaner space. And builder or developer, someone has to set these expectations even with buyers who are bringing in pets. So I'll share a simple example of this. Wherein one of the property, the builder had actually mentioned that there are not going to be any pet animals in their property. And that is one of the reasons why many other folks had bought the property. But over a period of time, when the property handovers happened, wherein one of the owners were okay with their tenant having pets, and then the owner themselves changed their mind and they wanted to have a pet after they bought the property. And then all the confusion started with everybody telling that, no, we never wanted pets because we have so much of fear that wherever we are walking, what if you leave the pets without leash? Or what if they end up jumping when I'm coming in front of your house? And we don't know where you're going to make them poop or pee. We don't know how you're going to handle their waste. And we are not really comfortable with this whole idea itself. Then we had to spend couple of sessions explaining that how over a period of time there are guidelines that are now applicable even for pet parents, because we want to try to address these kind of conflicts and inhibitions, and we want to encourage responsible pet parenting, which means that we are trying to spend more times even with pet parents to make them understand that there is a set of citizens who may not be relating to the same emotion as you having pets, and it is important that you start respecting that space. And that is how we started educating the remaining group that there is an opportunity to have your dogs on leash and taking them out in set durations. And at the same
So,
time, we
sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to mention that Mr. Amit had a question. So,
yes, I'll finish this in another 30 seconds, and then I think I can take your question, Amit. So we started talking about how there are responsibilities that we assign even for pet parents, considering that we have a different landscape in cities right now. And in turn, we started educating the other side of the behavior and ways to even identify. Like a dog is walking towards you, is it charging towards you, or is it just walking? And what about eye contacts? How to interact with cats? And if your immediate neighbor in the apartment has cats or dogs or even birds, then how to handle this? We have spent quite a lot of time, I think at least 1.5 years now, educating both the crowds. And as then when the awareness has increased on how the interactions are happening, and some conflicts can be managed if we choose to talk to each other, if we choose to understand the perspective of both the parties, that has helped us create a more coexistence oriented environment. Amit, go ahead. Let me know what is your question.
Yeah, hi. So my query is regarding the see, I don't have anything against the pet parents, first thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do believe that the pet parents are keeping the pets out of their compassion. But my
Hmm.
problem is when the people who are either the pet parents or who do not want to manage the pets by themselves, they go
Hmm.
out and they look after the strays.
Hmm.
So what happens is I've seen it firsthand at multiple locations. I stay in Brigade Metropolis, so
Mm-hmm.
there is a outside food street kind of a place where we call it arcade, and there
Hmm.
are couple of dogs there which are barely able to walk because they are overfed. They
Okay.
cannot even walk, and nobody they people give them food out of affection, but nobody is going to take any responsibility. There are a couple of incidents which have happened for the dog bites and all, but whenever we talk, okay, we should send them to the shelter or somewhere, then people stand and they tell that no, that is against their rights. So, so
Mm-hmm.
what is more important, human rights or the dog's rights?
It's a balance that has to be created because humans are part of the ecosystem and not at the top
So
of it.
here I would like to invite you and see the
Mm-hmm.
condition of those dogs by yourself.
I understand, sir.
So
I
it
understand
has
the.
become a nuisance to even to walk. See, you are right. Everybody is having is not having a good interaction with the animals. So there are
Mm-hmm.
couple of kids, even elders, who are scared of dogs and all. Even if they are not a danger, then also they feel that they should not go near to them. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it has so happened that you are not able to assess their mood,
Mm.
whether they are going to bite you or they are not going to bite you. They just bark and go away, or they just charge upon you. So it has become like that. But whenever anybody raise any objections against it, lot of pet parents and lot of dog lovers come around and they tell that no, you don't have any rights, only dogs have the rights. And I have seen it. I have run a restaurant in Manyata Tech Park. So there
Mm.
it used to happen that people used to litter around lot of plates,
Mm.
and all the dogs used, whether they are disposable or non-disposable, they don't
Mm.
care. So they will litter around. So non-disposables, all the restaurants used to collect, clean them, and then again reuse them, right?
Mm.
So if they are littering those plates around and dogs are coming and licking on them, you tell me
Mm.
how can the hygiene be maintained? And whenever we used to raise this objection, Manyata Tech Park administrative office, they used to tell we cannot do anything. You just go and approach the Menka Gandhi.
Mm.
We can't do anything about it. So there is a huge problem. I am not talking against anything against the pet parents. They have all the rights, but their rights limits to their home. They should not they should not pressurize other people under their rights. This is what the problem is.
Actually, the right word and the solution over there would be regulation. What is regulation is there are set guidelines in the government itself with clear responsibilities for all kinds of groups. That is the non animal interactive citizens. I won't say non animal loving. I would say non animal interacting citizens. There is a guideline for them. Then there are some basic guidelines that are applicable for RWAs and builders, and then there are guidelines applicable for pet parents, and then there are guidelines applicable for feeders who care for all these animals, stray animals and cats and everything in their property. What we many a times miss is compassion and understanding for both kinds of perspectives and opinions. And when one of the parties overstep, and that is when all these conflicts happen. I understand Maneka Gandhi's uh, perspective in all these issues, but what I also understand is many a times feeders also are at fault, or pet parents are also at fault, that they are not following the guidelines and they are not understanding which are the places where you can encourage animal interaction, which are the places where you must not encourage, especially when we are talking about senior citizens walking, important places like children play area or senior citizens walking path, and then your clubhouse or theater place, then you have your swimming pool and gym area. These are, and then you have your entrance and exit. These are the kind of places where it is ideal to avoid having dogs and avoid feeding them in those particular places, considering that there is constant churn of people. And animals also cannot gauge who is your friendly person, who is your fearful person who is reacting, these kind of things. So, what we do is whenever such conflicts occur, we go to that particular properties and understand if there is a way where we can slightly isolate these animals within their territories itself, but away from public dense locations, and then guide feeders on how they need to manage feeding and how pet parents need to handle their pets. That way, there are no conflicts arising for the other set of people. I would say I can give you an
So
example of.
I believe that is the right approach, and I'm not. I'm really. I'll really appreciate if I can invite you and we can find a solution to this, because this is not my personal problem. This is a community problem.
So
But
Brigade
yes, if I
Metropolis
can help.
is on my list. We were
Okay.
to visit your location, a couple of weeks back, but because of a cruelty case, we ended up, delaying the meeting for Metropolis. But I'm sure you'll get to meet me sometime next week.
Sure, sure, sure. So you can take my number and probably you can contact me.
Amit,
I'll talk to the secretary here in the association, and we can probably plan a proper way out. Yeah, that is what.
Sure, sir. I
so
think mid ground is a solution.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is right.
Correct, because human rights is also important, animal rights is also important, and it is even more important for both of us to understand what are our triggers when it comes to interaction in a restrictive space, and then keeping some safety measures in mind for everybody is really critical. And I won't say, the thing is, it is all perceptual based. Humans are
Yeah, yeah.
constantly thinking they are important, and then there is another set
So
who is actually fighting for the rights. But what happens is it's a
you are right. We
misplaced
have to find.
priority. Where what I can say is, there are times where every apartment is not actually a battlefield. And that is one thing many activists forget. And they think that, okay, if we have fought in that apartment A because XYZ happened to us, then even in apartment B, when someone raises a question, then we are going to respond to it in the same manner. That is one of the recipe for disaster, I can say. Rather, it is really important to understand how each of the properties are designed, to see how much space they have, how the walking path, how close is the clubhouse, how close are other amenities near the gate. These are the kind of things that we have to see location by location, and then help the builder and the citizens who are residing there to solve conflicts when it comes to animal interaction. I feel that is the right approach for us to do. That way, we won't have comparisons or the questions of importance, I guess.
thanks, Sadhana, actually. And I would like to thank Amit for raising up this point because I have the same concern. Lot of time, my friends will ask me, right, what to do about this? And
Hmm.
I don't know how to handle, correct? So I personally feel sometimes that we as a pet parents are unreasonable.
Hmm.
Correct. We have to also
Yes.
understand the other, that was the whole purpose of having this discussion today, actually. So how we can like, so basically what I understand from you, okay, there are laws for the pet parents, but at the same time, there are laws for non-interactive like humans basically with the animals, right? So they also, and we need to be make sure when with whom we are feeding and where basically. Like for example, stray dog, right? If they're creating a nuisance for all of us, it's a problem.
Correct. What has changed over a period of time is there is very less open space for dogs and cats, which are I mean non-pets, which are non-pets. They're there in the environment. They used to have that kind of open space, gutters and everything where they could hide. And now we have this huge gated communities. And when the construction is happening, the laborers bring in dogs or they're feeding the dogs at that point of time because they are protecting all the materials, they're protecting the laborers at a time when there is no CCTV, no security guard, nothing. And then once the construction happens, the whole way the property has been designed and the interaction that comes in also changes the format. Like the residents are not the same way how the laborers are. Laborers have exposure to animals everywhere. They have exposure to risk everywhere. But when it comes to residents who are coming and residing in those places, they have no idea of that. And they're not used to the whole idea of seeing so much of pets or even stray dogs and cats. This is one of the places where we are intending to have more conversations with builders and developers to create designs, keeping in mind that there are going to be dogs and cats and birds around you. Right? Some simple steps. For example, I have a lot of people coming in and telling that they have problems with pigeons. So even when they have swimming pools, they are fighting the pigeon poop part of it. And now many RWAs are moving on to put nets, but then that is going to kill the native birds because birds cannot identify that it is net for pigeons or it is net for itself. And That happens because you're focusing more on having show plants in your landscape rather than having enough cover of greenery and native trees. So we encourage builders and developers that when you're doing urban planning and designing, include more native trees. That way they have more trees to sit on rather than going and sitting in your balcony. And then even we have people who have religious beliefs that they have to feed pigeons, which is fair. When you are talking about Article 21, fundamental rights of all citizens, both parties have the rights to follow what they believe in. But what we can do is, if there are places away from human dwelling, that is away from your balconies, and swimming pools, those are the places where you can possibly start feeding. And that too, it is in a very limited manner, because as and when we have native trees coming in and we are encouraging native species of birds, they control the invasive species themselves. That way you don't have to actually take coercive steps to control any species from going out of their limit and interacting with humans and causing conflict. Same thing with dogs, cats, snakes, and monkeys that come in RWAs. There are more native trees, fruit bearing trees, than you have monkeys going to the trees. Where if you have more flowers that can be pollinated, and if you have trees where there are more flowers coming in and it can be pollinated, then your beehives also will go focus on the trees rather than the beehives being there in your balconies. And then even the nesting, small hanging nests, increasing your native trees gardening in your space, and then hanging more nests gives an opportunity for the birds to use the nest in the tree rather than coming and nesting in your balcony. Now, when it comes to dogs and cats, it would be good that, at the time just before the possession or handover or anything happens from the builder, if they're able to assess what is the count of stray dogs that are there and which uh, areas they see more dogs or cats coming in, creating some conducive spaces, comfortable spaces for them to sit in that area, being fed in that area. That automatically helps you reduce the interaction in main areas. Because what I have seen is even feeders, no? I mean, there are a lot of residents. Sometimes even when we regulate feeders, we are not able to regulate other residents. Meaning, we are telling a handful of feeders we know that don't feed in XYZ places. We will provide you a place, you go feed there. That is done. But you still see a lot of residents throwing their one roti from their window,
Yes.
or someone keeping that small bowl of food or some leftover biscuit somewhere near the basement or somewhere near the gate, and then they go away. And those are the kind of things that attract animals to increase their interaction with the remaining residents who are uncomfortable. So what we suggest in those times is, from day one, what builders can continue to do is put advisory boards educating that there are going to be animals, but we are handling it in so and so way. This is your standard feeding area if you want to help animals who are there in the property to be fed. This is the pet relief area, that is a technical thing wherein a lot of properties don't allot that kind of space. They think, what do you say, that reality space, like 5% of your space has to go into possibly caring for animals and birds. And many apartments or RWAs have not thought of this before, because of which now residents are not comfortable letting go of some of that land space in their property to be allotted to care for animals and birds. So this is one of the places where we suggest builders and developers that think of this while you're designing itself, so that it's not a new addition and that you don't have to convince the buyers and the tenants now that we have to let go of the small space for a pet relief area or a pet interaction area. When you have made space for all of this beforehand, then it doesn't become a new addition and something that you have to educate every other person and convince them for it. It just becomes a norm. You can ask that question, ki, are you a pet parent? How many pets you have? And what do you intend to do? How do you interact with pets? These are the kind of some basic questions we can help even the builders to ask when they're interacting with possible buyers. That way, it is an understanding that they will be able to create lesser conflicts even when the association handover happens. What we see is many a times builders think that it's okay, we are not going to address this, we will leave it to the association to handle it when it
Mhm.
is going to come. And when the association takes over, they have very limited control on the space space adjustment. And then the question comes in, ki, how do we identify the pet relief area? How many people are comfortable allotting a separate space? And how many people are comfortable with us providing food? These kind of problems. So the basic solution would be day one, start accepting that there are going to be animals and birds around you in the environment. Create more animal and birds inclusive properties and educate the citizens as and when they are onboarded. This is a problem that we saw in a couple of Shobha properties, wherein you have this phase by phase handover of properties that happen. So first we had the first phase had around 100 residents. Then there was a gap of around 6 months. Then the second phase came in and more residents started coming in. Animals and birds also go by vibes, and very few people understand that the vibes matter. So they were familiar with the first 100 residents who came in, but then they were not familiar with the new additions that were coming in. And the animals, the stray dogs, and everyone were thinking that, okay, these are threat, and these new people must not be coming inside the property. And that created dog bites and confusions and everything. So interaction of community animals with new addition of people who keep coming to the property as and when your handover is completed is also a factor that has been missed out. Largely because these are the kind of problems we didn't have then. We have it now, so we have to start identifying new ways how to counter it and manage it in a peaceful manner. So we started educating more residents that, there are these 5 community dogs already there in the property. These are the names. These are the normal areas where you will find them sitting or loafing around. And if you find them, this is how you can interact, or this is how you can read their behavior. And we educated more people to put advisory boards of, if you see a pigeon around this area, what to do, or if you see a cat or a dog in this area, then what to do. This has helped reduce conflicts largely. I think more and more awareness, as and when we step into an area of more and more awareness coming in through the builders, and they're creating spaces for the dogs that are existing in their property before the handover, that will help improve coexistence in a much peaceful manner. That is our belief. Having said that, I was actually thinking that someone is going to ask me a question about Scoop the Poop. Surprisingly, I haven't heard about it still.
You can answer that question now.
Yes. So, 3 or 4 questions is to come to us for pet parents most of the times. And now we are educating more and more pet parents. The first question is, can their dogs be walked without leash? Is that acceptable? I mean, when it comes to animal rights, it is one question that is very debatable, leash and muzzle. So what we would say is leash, a well-fitting leash and a harness is really important when they're walking and taking their pets in public spaces, because we cannot regulate humans and children, and we cannot regulate the pets also as to how they're going to react if there is a sudden interaction with anybody, be it while they're walking, or be it in the lift or basement while they're taking their dog out. There are always chances that there is a sudden interaction. So having a good leash to control your pet from reacting or jumping on another person is really important, and that is mandatory. Every pet parent, irrespective of of their pet dog being very calm, a very well behaved pet is what they say, even then we recommend that you have to put the leash, well fit one, and then comes the muzzle. Now, muzzle is not really necessary. I mean, it is considered as cruelty to put muzzle all the time and take the dogs out. This is one thing. But then we have also seen that when there is lift usage that is happening, there are times of conflict. So in those cases, what we tell pet parents is, if you are in close space, even for few minutes, those are times when you need to put muzzle. Like you're taking them in the lift, just until you go to the open space, please put that muzzle. And then in your open space, you go ahead and you do the walking and everything. And then when you're again coming back to the lift or a closed space, put the muzzle back. This is just a safety measure, because we have seen a lot of parents who make their pets go wear the muzzle because they don't want their pets to eat anything untoward in their walks. So if you can use the muzzle for that, you can also use the muzzle for a small duration when you are going in lift or when you're going in small places and then you're walking your pets. While muzzle is not mandatory, we recommend you use that wherever you feel that your pet is going to be reactive and that is going to be dangerous for other residents. That is first thing. Second thing is scoop the poop and how urination is handled. Now, I know there are a lot of areas where urination is a question of discussion. That what if the pets are peeing everywhere and we are uncomfortable with that. Now, pets pee for territorial marking as well, which is acceptable. But there is two way, a pet peeing completely and then pet peeing with a small remnant. So what we say is when there are small remnants of peeing, that is okay, that is for marking. But if you're making your pet pee completely, relieving completely in a particular place, then that is not okay. If you have a pet relief area, you have to use pet relief area. Carrying a little bit of water, the STP treated water itself, you can use that and clean the urination wherever it happens, because mishap happens with kids also and it happens with pets also. And both kinds of parties must make sure that they're cleaning, including taking them in the lift and there is an accident that happens over there. It is the responsibility of the pet parent to clean. And scooping the poop is absolutely necessary. We have seen so many places where appropriate trash cans are made available to be able to dispose your pet poop, or there are composts. There are now small composts that are available. We had this problem where the garbage people come once in 2 days to collect garbage, and many pet parents were actually storing the pet poop in the balcony or common area somewhere, and that was creating disturbance for the remaining residents. So in those cases, what we have suggested is you explore the possibility of doing a large scale compost if you think you're going to have a lot of pets in your property, or else educate them to have individual composts. That way, disposing pet poop is going to be easier and less painful, because many a times even the housekeeping people have discomfort. That is one thing. And the other problem that we face is when we say scoop the poop, there are people who use leaves, then there are people who use paper, and then there are people who use hardcore plastic covers. That is wrong, because again, that is going to create problem with segregation, even for housekeeping people and garbage management folks. So what we suggest is if you have trash cans that are available with biodegradable covers, then make sure that all of you are using papers only, recyclable or anything, and then you are disposing the trash appropriately. But scooping the poop is absolutely mandatory. For stray dogs, if there are community dogs and cats in your property and then you see poop coming in those cases, yes, it is the responsibility of the housekeeping to take care of it. But if there are pet relief areas that has been assigned and there are guidelines that are in place for pet parents, then scooping the poop is mandatory. And some part of reasonable fines are also acceptable, be it through the builders or be it through the association, if you see that a particular pet parent is not adhering to that rule. Because that is the best way we can accommodate the other set of people also who are not comfortable with pets and pet poop and all that. Third part is we have a lot of complaints of when apartments, if you're sharing balconies and your dog is noisy or your cat is noisy, then how do we handle the noise? Here, there is another responsible parenting that we suggest, which is spend sufficient time with your animals and reduce the stress so that they understand that what is your schedule of when are you going to office, when are you coming back, who is sitting at home. And if they have separation anxiety, or if you have a rescue dog or a rescue cat, there are chances that they have a trauma of abuse already, and that is one of the reasons why they don't want to stay away from their humans. In these cases, there are a lot of opportunities in metro cities largely where you have canine behaviorists who can come and help you understand how to maintain your pet anxiety and how to make your pets less reactive. These are the steps that pet parents must take and make sure that they are not leaving their dog in the balcony all the time completely unattended, not leaving their cats that are jumping from one balcony to another balcony and going into the neighbor's house. These are the kind of things that pet parents must take responsibility. They are part of nature, but then when you say that this animal is in my house, it means that you are responsible for that particular animal, and you're also responsible of how you're going to ensure the interactions are going to happen with your neighbors. So that's very important. And the last part, when it comes to rights and cruelty, it is we suggest that associations have animal welfare committees wherein there is a way to channelize your concern, including how you respond to pet bites in case if pets attack or if there is a mishap that happens with a particular pet, then how do you handle the pet bites? Then how do you handle the medication? Is it safe or not? Then we have the latest animal birth control order that came in, and I will share it with Pooja so that it can be shared with the wider group, where it is necessary for associations, or if the association handover has not happened, then it is important for builders to make sure that they maintain a record of vaccination. How many pets you have in your property and when were they vaccinated? This is really important to ensure that in case if there is a mishap, not intentional, then at least other residents are not in a danger state on the rabies part or any other activity. So these are the four important things that we cover in the guidelines. And BBMP, in BBMP limits, we have the BBMP guidelines that has been published back in July. We continue to encourage all builders, developers, everybody, associations, and all pet parents also to read and understand what the guidelines entail, what the guidelines are suggesting them to do. And in case if they feel that they are not able to execute any part of the guideline, then we suggest them to reach out to BBMP, or they can reach out to our organization as well, so that we can come with BBMP and help you sort the conflicts so that you can coexist with pets or community animals wherever possible. So I'm going to pause here to see if you folks have any other questions to ask.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, we do actually. So let me start with Prema. Please go ahead.
Hi, Prema. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, hi. I have a pet actually at home, and I want to know I have one question
Mm-hmm.
that whenever a guest comes into the house,
Hmm.
few of the guests are very scared of pets,
Hmm.
So I leash her or I put her somewhere, and she will keep on making noises and all these things. So I always feel bad whenever I leash her or put her in a room or something like that, because I feel that it's against the nature for her because she's always unleashed at home. Correct? So
Hmm.
but at the same time, if guest is scared of dogs, then
Hmm.
I cannot leave her like that. So what is
Hmm.
the right way of handling this situation? Because both the situations are contradictory, like I feel bad for both the situations.
Well, most of the pets are reactive because they're possessive about their pet parent. And they feel that any person that they don't know comes into their house, then there is a possible threat. And they're obsessed about saving their pet parent. And that is where most of the barking and tugging and everything happens. But
No,
if it
in
is,
her case, what I have seen her, even though like regular people comes in the house once in a while, she if the person is not comfortable with the pet, they will show a body language which says that they are
correct.
scared of dogs or cats or whatever it is. So in that situation, she will intentionally want to come near them.
Hmm.
So at the same time, being a guest or a human or whatever you can say, I have to protect them as well because they are scared.
Personally, how I handle is I do ask them if they are comfortable with me bringing the dog and making my dog smell the guest and interact just basic in a controlled environment where I can take the pet back if she is about to snap. Right? That is
Mm,
one thing I do. But in case if it
mm.
turns out that there is a guest who's coming to our house even once a month, but my pet is not going to ever warm up to that person, then we always change the place where we meet. House is not at all the place for us to meet, considering that I have multiple pets at home and it is a very uncomfortable interaction, right? The guest is also constantly
Yes,
thinking, will the
because
dog come
my
now?
my attention is always both the side, because if I'm leashing her, that time also my all the attention goes to her because she will keep on barking, she will make noises and all these things. So I end up having distraction in the
Your
conversation.
RWS, I mean, best thing is RWS have all this shopping space, cafe, and lounge areas and everything. I would best thing would be if your dog is constantly reactive and is not warming up to a certain guest, changing the place where you interact and meet them would be the best way to go.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone has any other question? So I have one question actually, Sadhana. This really bothers me. Whenever, like most of the time, I have seen some of the pet parents, they will
Mm-hmm.
take their pet out of the apartment complex, take them on the street,
Mm.
and make them poo on the street.
Mm.
So both as a pet parents also, right? Somebody will, I know, make a comment about it. So
Mm.
how, what can I tell to the pet parents? Maybe by force or by love, right? Where they
Be
can,
it
they should
inside,
become
be it
responsible
inside
pet
the
parent.
property. Correct. Be it inside the property or be it outside the property in a public space, pet parents are supposed to scoop the poop everywhere. And
Okay.
that's a overall, there is a High Court order also associated with it, wherein they have mentioned that irrespective of where you're taking your pet to relieve, it is important that you scoop the poop and
And
dispose it
what
responsibly.
and what is the order actually against such people?
The order is you can inform BBMP as well. You can flag it by calling 1533. So, step one, you can educate the pet parent saying wherever you are taking your pet to relieve, it is important that you scoop the poop and dispose it responsibly. In case the pet parent is not adhering to it, if it is inside the association, then you can have those basic fine under littering and try to curb the violation. In case if it is outside, you can call 1533 and flag it to them so that BBMP can come and educate that particular person and issue a notice to ensure that the pet relieving is happening in a responsible manner. And then there are corresponding fines and action that BBMP takes if someone is deliberately not following the law.
Okay. And suppose the person taking out is a kid, let's say like under 18-year-old, then
That is also wrong. That is another factor that we have mentioned in the guideline. So I know even a lot of animal lovers were not comfortable with that particular rule itself, that we are suggesting that if they are a minor, the minor or small kids, then we don't want them to take their dogs for a walk because you never know the situation as to when your pet might go out of control. And in case if it goes out of control, and God forbid there is a mishap, then the consequences and responsibility must still remain with an adult parent who can be tried in the court of law for the miss. If it is a minor, then you cannot try them in the court of law, but the damage would be done. If it is a small bite and all, it is acceptable sometimes saying, okay, there was a small thing. But imagine if there is a brutal bite, then it is unfair that we tell the victim that, oh, it is a minor, so they have no consequences for their action. So that is one of the basic reason why we suggest that it must always be an adult who is familiar in interacting, and it is also a factor on dog walking. I know dog walking is a new business model for a lot of people where they have pets and they hire dog walkers. Dog
correct.
walkers go and walk them, and then there is no responsibility if the dog walker is going to pick the poop or not. That is one thing. And the second thing is if the dog walker even has the right interaction with the animal to be able to control and manage it in different spaces. And here also we put the responsibility on the pet parent itself, saying it is your duty to ensure that you have the interaction with the animal, you know how you are handling the animal waste, and that you are adhering to the guidelines so that in case if there is an uncomfortable situation, you know you are the person who is going to bear the consequences of.
Got it. Thank you so much, Sadhana. Uh, Pooja, over to anybody has any other questions? Over to you, Pooja. Sorry, Pawan, please
Hmm.
ask you the last question. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Manojji. Thanks, Sadhana, for giving us the insight. So my question is specifically related to the law on the point I'm going to raise. First of all, I noticed that you addressed the pet as animal, right? Since you are
Mm.
fully aware of the the nature of the basically animal, and you're calling it as an animal. But as a I'm a pet lover, but I don't have a pet at home. But most of the parents, what the pet parents I have seen, they treat the animal as a kid. So
Mm.
the most of the time I have seen the conflict happening is when the non-pet lover is calling it as an animal and the pet parent calling it as a child. And then the comparison starts. So my question to you is, how does the law treat this particular relationship? Would you give us some insight on that?
Firstly, we tell everybody to not even, focus on the nomenclature of what you're going to call your pet. There are times where we have to. I mean, it is obvious we have to accept that it is an animal, right? It is another species. There is nothing that we can deny about it.
Right.
How you're going to treat it, if you're going to treat it as a family, if you're going to treat it as your child, it is up to you individually. But acceptance of that is something that we cannot force on any citizen. That if I'm considering my pet as a child, I can't force you to consider the pet as a child. But then over a period of time, what government and the legality comes in is animals are anyway considered as a sentient being, right? They go on to keeping it that way itself, that most of the times we are only addressing them as pet owners. We are not really completely addressing it into pet parents mode. But in many other countries, they have started changing their constitutional definitions and wordings to accommodate your animals as your children itself. How our society is going to take and how India is going to take that is still a question, because we haven't seen many people being very comfortable about us calling them as pet parents. And one of the reasons over here is, many citizens are looking at you and defining whether you're a parent or an owner, depending on how you're handling the pet. If someone is actually having a pet because it is the status symbol, and what they do is they have the dog and they have a dog walker is doing the walking dog, then there is a maid who is coming and scooping the poop or taking things, and then the maid only is the caretaker who is taking the dog and managing in big properties. Then in those cases many residents say, no, you're not a pet parent, you're a pet owner, because you just own a pet. You're not really interacting with them. But then there are other set of pet parents who are actually very involved with their pet. They are going and making sure that the walking is happening. They're talking to their pets. They are pampering them with all possible items and all that. And in those cases, parents come in. But generally, when it comes to government, we are only talking about them as pet owners.
Okay, so government is pretty practical in their approach towards people who own a pet and how the other society looks at it. So can I consider it as a, government giving importance to coexistence of both the species in a complex with
Absolutely.
more dignified way, basically.
Yes, and we have also acknowledged the change in the landscape of how all these RWAs have come up and how the interaction happens and the kind of events that happen in these properties
Mm.
and what are the points that come as a most common conflict. We are trying to address that in a more formal manner than how it used to be before.
Right. So if possible, if you could share with us the guidelines or the laws related to owning a pet and how we behave with the pets as a society with Pooja, and it will be of more benefit for all of us. Thank you.
Definitely, we will share it.
Yeah.
So, thank you everyone so much for joining us today. We hope this session gave you practical insights into responsible pet ownership, civic sense, and how we can build more inclusive and harmonious apartment communities. Heartfelt thank you to Mrs. Sadhana Hegde for sharing her experience and knowledge on this topic. As a token of appreciation, we would like to plant a tree in your name. Finally, if you found this session helpful and want to stay informed about future webinars, do follow us on our social media channels. We have also linked our LinkedIn profiles in the chat box. Thank you once again for being with us today. Have a wonderful day ahead.
And thank you all for taking time to even listen to the other side of the story and, putting your step forward, saying we are going to have a coexisting environment or a society. That makes a lot of difference because we are the kind of empaths who are going to create a more empathetic society for everyone.
Thank you.
Completely.
Thank you all for your time. Have a great
Yeah.
weekend.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.